Live from Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport in Texas, this is Runway DFW in color. Now, here is your host, Lubbock and Waco.
Okay, here we are. Sunday, June 12th, 2022, part 2 of this edition of Runway DFW. Thanks for coming back, and we appreciate very much your patronage and your patience, and we're going to see if this works any better than our last effort. We've bumped our signal down to 1080p, I'm sorry, to 720p, which may or may not mean something to you. It means essentially we've had to strip down our signal a bit to help it go out to you. And I haven't checked it yet, so let me see if I can find it. Okay. So it probably looks okay right now, but that's because we're not moving the camera around. So we'll just take that as it goes, and we'll see what's coming up next here. We're waiting for Korean Air cargo flight to Anchorage. It'll be a Queen of the Skies of 747. But in the meantime, we're going to check out a flight from Laredo, Texas, American Eagle Flight 3138. A CRJ 701ER, I'm suspecting. Oh, I was so right. A little more than an hour flight from Laredo. And here it comes now on Runway DFW. We got a plane ready to take off here. We got a couple lining up. First up, looks like it's American Flight 2627, an A321 bound for the city by the bay, San Francisco, with the Dallas skyline behind it and the east tower of DFW Airport there in the background. Got a flight coming in too from Birmingham, American Flight 3300, which may appear in the foreground there momentarily. There it is. Parallel operations here on runways 18 left and 18 right. Landings on 18 right, the takeoffs on 18 left.
2627, so long.
We are pointing to, well, here's another American Airlines Heritage livery. Someone kind of snuck up on us. That'll be our second of the day. I'm trying to remember what one that is. I know I've seen it before. We saw the PSA Heritage livery in the first portion of our broadcast. And that was the Reno Air Heritage livery. As we are now starting to see the emergence of Korean Air Cargo. This particular aircraft, 9 years old, on its way to Anchorage. I want to thank two new subscribers this morning, Zerial100 and Trin Trong have joined our growing family here. We invite you to like and subscribe to the Runway DFW channel. Hit the notification bell for when we go on the air. We usually are on the air about twice a week. Yes, it's the Pepsi plane. The Queen of the Skies. We didn't play our Queen of the Skies theme. I thought we needed something to kind of highlight when we see this grand aircraft. .747's been in the news in the last few weeks. Of course, Atlas Air has now obtained the third to last official 747. There's two more to be delivered, both to Atlas Air. And there are two more 747s still being built, although they're not technically 747s because they're the military version of that, which will be designated as the new presidential airplane, though they're making two of them. And They've been delayed a bit. So we still have 2 more passenger 747 types to go from Boeing. And those will be the last. And it's making a big turn towards the northwest. Just to orient you, the planes are taking off directly to the south on runway 18 right. So they're coming in from the north and they're landing, or they're taking off to the south. Luke Mold is back. Hello to my family in California and Minnesota. I hope you're all well, and I love and miss you all. Hope to see you all soon. How many times do you get over here, Luke? I'd love to go to your country someday. Luke also wants to know, what does that make the A380 the king of the skies, or those Russian cargo planes? What would they be called? I don't know. I mean, I guess the 380, I think I've heard some people call it the king of the skies. Looks like we've got a Sun Country Airlines jet, which is taxiing up to the takeoff spot on 18 left. That's not it. There it is. No, it looks like it's going over the bridge. So instead of taking off from here, it's going off over to the east side of DFW Airport for taking off to Cancun. So it goes over one of several bridges that cross over the highway that brings passengers to and from the terminal areas. That too is a north-south highway, so we've got 2 north-south runways on this side, on the west side, 3 north-south runways on the east side of DFW, and then we've got some crosswind kind of diagonal runways on either side of the airport. See how our noisy secondary camera is doing. Yeah, it's pretty noisy. Shouldn't have a noisy picture at this time of day. Well, what do we have to show you? We have at least one flight, which is probably about 3 or 4 minutes away, coming in from El Paso, way in West Texas. That'll be American Eagle Flight 5820. Be a CRJ 900ER. But it's not here yet. Bill Caldham asks, and we've had this discussion before on Runway DFW, seems like maybe an optical illusion, but it seems that cargo jets have a steeper climb out than passenger jets. And I've noticed the same thing, particularly on the MD-11s. They really go up at almost a 45-degree angle, but a lot of the other cargo jet types also seem to do the same thing, and I don't know why that is. Is it because they don't have to worry about passengers reacting to a steep climb, or I don't know. Maybe there's a pilot in the audience who would have the answer to that. And Glenn B 42 wants to know, what are those things on the bridge? Well, let's see.
1169, g'day.
I'm not sure if I know what you're talking about. There are, light poles, and in the background is the skylines of Dallas and Irving, Texas. There are some low guardrails, I think. It's hard for me to see exactly what you're seeing because I'm just looking at a 2-inch monitor. And Luke is answering a question I had earlier. He doesn't get over to the States a lot. He was over there 12 years ago for my cousin's wedding. Haven't been back since. Would love to come back to America. Great place, great people, great food, amazing. But Luke, I have to let you know that a lot of people over on this side of the pond feel the same way about your great country. I mean, we see all the pictures of it, and I really hope that's definitely on my to-do list, is to get over to New Zealand and Australia, for that matter, and see what all is happening over there. Well, finally, we've got this flight coming in from, where was it? El Paso? I've forgotten now. I think that's our El Paso flight. I'm dealing with untangling my cords right now. Hang on a second, I plug back in. Okay, I think we've got a clarification from Glenn B. They look like trams for passengers. And yes, there is a service here that interconnects all the terminals. It's actually been rebuilt since the airport first opened. Let's see if I can, that kind of flyover, that kind of bridge there, and you can see one in the background there. They're little automated trams, which are common at airports. It's called Skylink. It operates on the Skylink operates on the security side of the terminal. So if you land at one terminal and need to go to another for your connection, you can hop on a Skylink. They travel in both directions. And there are a total of 5 terminals here at DFW, so that's really the only way to get back and forth. I think there are 2 terminals where you can actually walk from one to the other should you choose. But I think all the rest are isolated in that regard. So you have to have this kind of little train system. And the original train system that they had here was similar to this, except it only went in one direction, and it was on the unsecure side of the terminals. So, you know, after 2001, if you had to connect from one terminal to the other, you'd have to go through secure or leave the secure section, get on the train, go to the other terminal, and if you were going from, I don't know, terminal E to terminal D, I think you'd have to loop all the way around before you could get to it. And then you'd have to go through security again. So they fixed that with this arrangement where the trams are all behind security. We have our Runway DFW pal from Kalamata, Greece. Welcome to you. There goes another Skylink. We're so happy to have all of you here with us this morning, or whatever time it is in your zone. I'm guessing in Greece it's, what, mid to late afternoon, right? And Luke is joining us from New Zealand late at night. So probably already Monday morning there. So this internet broadcasting thing is kind of crazy. We are here at DFW Airport. You're looking at an image of Founders Plaza, from which our broadcast emanates. It's a free, anybody can come here and hang out. We've already got lots of folks here today. I see 1, 2, 3, 4 cars, some bicyclists. People who like to come out and watch planes, or just kind of hang out and have breakfast or lunch or dinner. Later in the day, we'll probably see some kids coming out to hang out. So it's a nice place to hang out here at DFW Founders Plaza. It's on the northwest side of the airport. There's no admission. It's totally free. But we're in kind of a slow period here. And what do we have here? I see a CargoLux. We're going to get to see our second 747 of the morning. First was Korean Air Cargo off to Anchorage. This one's going to be CargoLux, a 747, headed off to Chicago. And it has lit up on the radar. And where we are pointing the camera to now is about where we should see it emerging. And this will be an 8-year-old 747-8R7F. I haven't seen a CargoLux here in a while. I know they come in and out, and I'm generally only here a couple times a week for several hours at a time, so I miss a lot. There's one cargo plane I'd really like to see, which I haven't seen yet. It's a Silkway West, I believe it's called. Comes in from, or it's going to Baku in trying to remember the name of the country now. Somewhere in the Far East. Silkway West. It usually comes in at night and goes.
RNF to Lauren, runway 18 left, clear for takeoff, envoy, 3569.
Goes out at odd times. So maybe someday we'll be lucky enough to catch it. We've got an American Eagle Flight 3569. Getting ready for takeoff. You might have heard the chatter on the the radio. This is going to Killeen, Texas. It's an Embraer 175 LR. And you'd probably like to see it, right? There it is.
Roger.
Runway 35, 6 negative.
DFW AvGeeks checks in with a nice comment. Awesome live stream, Walt. Just listening to it today and waiting to surpass 100 on your channel. 100 on your channel. That's great. We're hoping to get to 4,000 one of these days. And just keep plugging away. Check out DFW AvGeeks, everyone. And yes, they're referring to 100 subscribers. Hey, Waters. Waters is here from the UK, if I remember correctly. And good afternoon to you. Almost tea time. And once again, we have a lull at the world's second busiest airport. I'm checking the skies to the north of us, and in about 3 or 4 minutes, seeing American Airlines Flight 116. That'll be a mighty 777 coming in from Maui. Triple seven is American Airlines' largest, or I guess biggest capacity plane. At least the largest configuration of it is. What is the local time? 7:53. You see the sun rising. It will be beating down on us here in North Texas. We're up to 85 degrees already. Going up to 100 something, 103, 104, 105. We welcome Alucio Campos. Hello from Brazil. Hello to you, Alucio. I hope if I pronounced that right. Thank you for joining us. We are waiting on American Airlines Flight 116 coming in from Maui. We're not in the greatest position to see it. There's another turn-of-the-century plane dating back to 2022 or the year 2000. Here goes a Spirit plane off to Las Vegas. If I can see it. We're getting to the point now where it's getting hard to see my viewfinder because of the sun. I've seriously thought about using a hood. You know those old cameras where the photographer would have to go under a hood to focus on the ground glass to make sure that the picture was right before they took the picture on that giant plate. Well, it'd be perfect to have a hood over this whole camera so I could see my two phones up here and see my viewfinder, but I think I'd look a little weird. I have a high brightness monitor I bought to attach to my tripod, but I haven't figured out the right way to attach it yet. It gives me a bigger picture, like a 7-inch screen, which is easier to look at, and it's brighter than my viewfinder, but it just gets a little awkward looking at all this. Morris Reddick saying, hello, I'm glad there's finally a feed for my area, specifically DFW. I'm over here about 14 miles southeast of the airport. I worked there for a little over 5 years before going to DAL, which is Dallas Love Field. Morris, we went over to Dallas Love Field once. If you check our archives, we had a really good viewing spot there, but I ran into some issues with the city, which runs the airport, and it was the restrictions they had on me setting up, you know, having permits and insurance and all sorts of things. I'll try again sometime, but they didn't seem to cotton to plane spotters there at the Love Field garage. And what you're looking at there is the CargoLux 747. It's on its way to Chicago O'Hare. And the flight from Maui that's coming in is coming in over on the east side. Let's see if we can pick that out real fast before it disappears. That's a 777. It generally comes in on this side of the airport, but for some reason the traffic controllers have dispatched it over there. I think we'll pick up the tail because it's such a big plane. We'll get to watch it a little bit before it disappears completely. There's the tail. And there you see Japan Airlines Dreamliner, which is headed to Narita, But in the meantime, sorry for that quick pan, we want to get over to the CargoLux. So we're treated today to 2 747s this morning. And at the same time, we've got Japan Airlines Flight 6713 poised for takeoff to Japan. See if the CargoLux is going to pause while the Japan Airlines flight gets into position. As you can hear and maybe see, we have some emergency vehicles pulling out. And that's our 747 theme. We try to play that every time we see one light up our radar. And again, this CargoLux cargo is headed out to Chicago O'Hare on Runway DFW. Well, this big bird's got to make a big U-turn to head north to go to the Windy City. So they're off. And we've got United Airlines Flight 2371, a 737, off to San Francisco. And it's kind of rolling. They must be taking gold bars back to San Francisco. That plane used a lot of runway.
18 left to take off on flight 264.
We've got Delta Airlines. Pretty obvious, I think, but there's so many planes on the radar I can't pick out where it's going.
1 left, cleared for takeoff. RNAP lower end, American 21.6.
Let you know in a second. Going to Salt Lake City. That's an A319. And activity starting to pick up here. We've got American Flight 2114 headed to Santa Ana, California, in the Los Angeles area. I think that's John Wayne Airport, if I'm not mistaken. This will be a 737-800. And as this one's going out, we may see American Flight 1924. That'll be an A319 coming in from Querétaro in Mexico. This one's on runway 18 left. The incoming flights are on 18 right. A public service message from Glenn B42. Please don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button. Thank you, Glenn. Thank you all. We're trying to get to 4,000 subscribers. Hopefully before the end of the month. Speaking of the end of the month, well, more specifically the beginning of next month, on July 1st, British Airways fires up, or at least it's scheduled to fire up, its A380 service to DFW, and we plan to be here for that with a special broadcast. So we hope you'll circle your calendar for that. I know A380s go to the other airports that you may watch. We haven't had one here in a while, though. At one time, Emirates flew their Super Jumbos here. Yeah, we just got another subscriber, MF. Thank you for subscribing to Runway DFW. Here comes that flight from Querétaro in Mexico. But anyway, on July 1st, British Airways is scheduled to to switch its service over from Dreamliners to A380s here to DFW. And yes, we will be here for that. We have not had any A380 service since Qantas suspended its flights to DFW using that aircraft at the start of the pandemic. And when Qantas resumed its flights here just a couple of months ago, it decided to use 787 aircraft. So we have not seen an A380 here in quite a bit. I imagine there'll be quite a crowd here on that day. We had quite a crowd the day that Qantas returned. And I think that, as I recall, that was on the same day that Air France resumed flying to DFW. So it was there was a lot of people out here to see airplanes coming and going on that day. And you can see that in our archives on Runway DFW here on YouTube. This is our third American Airlines special livery of the day. PSA. Now, am I crazy? Did we see... Oh no, this is AirCal, sorry. It looks kind of like PSA. So yeah, we saw PSA earlier, we saw Reno Air earlier, and now here is AirCal. All American Airlines planes, but paying tribute in livery to some of the airlines which have gone to make up the current American Airlines family of planes. This is it's coming in from Omaha, 737-800. That's a 9-year-old aircraft in the AirCal paint job. So it's special livery day here at Runway DFW. Vince, Las Vegas, top of the morning, Walt. Just waking up here in the desert. Great views. Thank you, Vince. Good to hear from you. Mary was saying that that AirCal looks a little bit like Braniff. Braniff was a very colorful airline, which sadly is no longer with us. They did have a kind of a reincarnation after the initial... after its initial bankruptcy. It came back a few years later, but that was also to fail. don't know if they were the first, but they were certainly among the first, Braniff was, to kind of get away from traditional livery and paint their jobs in, or paint their planes in wild colors. They called themselves the Flying Colors of Braniff. They even had contemporary artist Alexander Calder paint at least one plane, and that was a really wild paint job. You can probably look it up on the interwebs. Glenn B42 saying, I don't see any moderators here, Walt. Why is that? Well, we're still kind of a growing concern here. And frankly, most of the time we haven't had a problem. We did have a little issue earlier this morning with one of our commenters, but for the most part we haven't had any troubles. That doesn't mean we won't have any. And Mrs. Runway DFW is a moderator, although she's in transit right now from her work back home. Little bit of a lull in the action, and so that gives us a second or two to ask you to visit streamlabs.com/runwaydfw. That is how you can tip us. You know, we don't have a kind of a formal tip jar here on YouTube, so you've got to go to streamlabs.com/runwaydfw, and that is where you can make a one-time or a recurring contribution to our efforts. We've got expenses, streaming expenses, travel expenses, equipment expenses, just like any other channel. And so if you'd like to help us, that's the way to do it. Streamlabs.com/runwaydfw. We'll acknowledge your contribution here on the screen, and we'll thank you in advance for any help you can give us at Runway DFW. We've had several new subscribers this morning to Runway DFW. We thank you all for that. Go through your names here in just a second. Got an American Airlines Dreamliner queuing up to go to Phoenix. We should see that shortly. I'd like to say thank you to all our new subscribers today. MF, Chris Cook, Zerial 100, Trin Trong, and those are our new subscribers for today. We're pointing ourselves towards 4,000, so we hope you can, if you're watching and you like what you see, you can join in. There's a Frontier bird. It's headed to Las Vegas. We'll see that take off momentarily. Morris Reddick filling us in on the Alexander Calder Braniff connection. He's saying he did a DC-8 and a 727. They were called Flying Colors, painted like red, white, and blue. Gorgeous plane. And again, you can take a look at that on the interwebs. Bill Caldham has a Braniff memory. Remember flying on Braniff in the early 70s as a young man. Very colorful. Flight attendants were beautiful. To a fellow in uniform. My ex-sister-in-law. We'll get to that story in a second. Here comes Japan Airlines flight from Tokyo. Coming in from Narita Airport, a Dreamliner. Anyway, my ex-sister-in-law used to work for Braniff as a flight attendant. She traveled all over the world. Got to get her to tell some stories. So that came in, that's about a 10.5-hour flight from Tokyo. Of course, it doesn't take quite as long to come this way, generally speaking, than going the other way because of the jet stream. That's a 5-year-old 787-9 Dreamliner. And now let's get back to that Frontier flight, shall we? Frontier is flying to Las Vegas. It's making the turn right now. And what do we have on the tail of this one? We've got Joey the Opossum. A little hard to pick out. The sun is kind of to our disadvantage at this time of day because it's putting everything in silhouette. But this Airbus A320 is headed to Las Vegas. Relatively new aircraft, just 3 years old.
Takeoff line left, American 1343. 10.420. The center is 100. The right is 11.460. Temperature is 78 degrees. There's no suspicion of work, and we are going to Alpha 58.
The wind is picking up a bit now, as it sometimes does after the sun comes up. We have an American Airlines flight 1343 headed to Cancun, as we've got one coming in from Chihuahua, both in Mexico. That was the Chihuahua flight coming in the foreground. Here's the Cancun flight going out in the background. Cancun always among the top destinations here from DFW on several airlines. I know American and Spirit fly there. Well, also Sun Country. We're about to see American Airlines Flight 2335. It's going to be a 737-800 coming in from Albuquerque. Is that the Japan Airlines flight down there? It still hasn't made its way over to the terminal? Or is that a different plane? Trying to see. Yeah, I guess that's the Narita flight. I guess got had to make a pause down there for incoming flights.
1924 is the Delta 31. Looks like the aircraft sits here a little while. There's no power and air hooked up. The AP is running.
So here comes the flight from Albuquerque. We'll see it in just a second. Flight 2335. Spin around. You can see the flags there. Here at DFW Founders Plaza with the incoming flight there, kind of midway up the flagpole. We're in a more obscured position than we normally are here because I'm testing out a different location to see if the internet connection's any better. So far it's been a little better. Now we've got another flight coming in from south of the border. This will be American Flight 1066 coming in from Mexico City. 737-800. May be able to hear, and you can definitely see the flags now coming to attention as the wind picks up from the pretty much the southwest. Jesse Cole McGowan saying, I have Verizon, and a lot of time when I'm at Founders Plaza, it's unusually slow. And yeah, I have T-Mobile, and I have a strong, well, my hotspot says I have a strong connection. And I tested the link before we went on the air to see what we could expect, and I thought, well, we can squeeze 1080 out of this pretty easily. It looked like a pretty solid connection, but it may have deteriorated as we went along. There's of course a lot of factors involved, not the least of which is that airports have a lot of people hanging around. They all want to be on their phones, and so even though we're not at the terminal area specifically, our location may be subject to the demands of people who are over at the terminal area. This flight's coming in from San Luis Potosí in Mexico. An A319. I have lost the flight number, so sorry about that. For those of you who are keeping score, is American Flight 809. 809. There is an American Airlines Dreamliner. This one's headed to Phoenix. One of the increasingly rare domestic uses of the Dreamliner, or at least from DFW. During the pandemic, when international service was reduced significantly, American switched over to using a lot of its Dreamliners on domestic routes. I believe we had Dreamliner service from here to Miami and to Los Angeles, and I don't know that. I think they've switched over to other aircraft at this time.
American 18 left, close to takeoff, American 520 hit.
Doing one of those speed tests right now on our connection. It looks very solid. Should be enough for a 1080p stream, but I don't want to chance it right now. So we're coming at you with a glorious 720p, which YouTube doesn't even consider to be HD. American 520 heavy. So Kavi is asking which country this is. We just see a new subscriber, drummer Kevin. Thank you for subscribing. And I see that your questions have been answered by our other participants on our chat room. And sorry for the delay in replying. And yes, it is 8:33 a.m. here in North Texas. Coming in from Silao in Mexico, another A319, American Airlines. Flight 1017. That's landing as we're getting a American Eagle flight taking off for Harlingen in far south Texas. silver bird and some real birds there in the picture. Patrick Mogan just subscribed. Thank you, Patrick. We are marching towards 4,000 subscribers. We just had Patrick Mogan, drummer Kevin, Amin Qureshi, sorry if I pronounced your name incorrectly, and Jeff W. has also subscribed to Runway DFW. We welcome you. And just so you know, we are on the air usually about twice a week. Generally speaking in the mornings, sometimes at other times of day. It just depends on what might be happening later this month. Well, actually early next month, July 1st to be specific. We will be here for the arrival of British Airways A380 Super Jumbo service from London. That again is July 1st. So circle your calendar. That's a big event here. And I know 380s have been popping up quite a bit over on the West Coast. I'm sure you watch the feeds from our pals at Airline Videos Live. And we'll get to join the rejoin the A380 Club pretty soon here at DFW Airport. Our next arrival is coming in from Abilene. It's an Embraer 145. Abilene is in Texas. Not too terribly far away. Well, everything's kind of far away in Texas, but by air, that was just a jaunt of 34 minutes. American Airlines. Yes, we have a lot of American Airlines flights here. It's the home of American Airlines here at DFW Airport. And this one is Flight 1106. It's going to Chicago O'Hare. (737-800). How old is this plane, you might ask? It's 10 years old. Or at least it was last September, was 10 years old. It's got a little bit hazy. But yeah, we still can see the Dallas skyline. It's not in the background of this picture. You'll see it as we follow this one on takeoff. Morris saying thanks for the information on the 380. I was wondering when we would get it back. Never been on a 380. I don't know, this seems like a good opportunity to do it. Being that it's traveling between here and London, and I love London and England. And I have advantage miles to burn, and British Airways is part of the One World Alliance that American Airlines is a member of. This flight's coming in from Aguas Calientes in Old Mexico. It's a number 175, flight 3687, I think. American Eagle. And here's an American Eagle Flight 3992. It's off to Bentonville, Arkansas, the home of Walmart. Just kind of went out of focus for us, didn't it? This, I believe, will be American Airlines Flight 2593, 737-800, off on its way to Minneapolis, St. Paul.
Runway 3992.
It looks like before that takes off, we're going to be seeing the arrival of American Eagle Flight 3847 coming in from Tallahassee in Florida. And we got a bunch of planes lining up, as we do typically right around in the minutes before 9 a.m. local time. Looking like the first out of the gate will be American Flight 1106 to Chicago O'Hare. Then we've got an American Flight 2593 to Minneapolis. American Eagle Flight to parts unknown, and another American Eagle Flight, which will be off to McAllen, Texas. So they're all kind of perched up there at the top of runway 18 left. And that there, folks, is American Flight 2612 coming in from Denver. And A321. Looking a little bit more like the world's second busiest airport. Looks like the plane there in the center is going to head off. This is the flight that's headed to Minneapolis, St. Paul.
Let's take off our nav layer and show us.
Alright, left that point, I'll play the 61.
Virginia Branch American 2593.
That was American Flight 2326 coming in from Des Moines, Iowa.
Have a good day.
And that's Mesa Airlines, operating as American Eagle. Flight 5680.
28 left, quick takeoff, operator 661.
Left, line up away, sir.
And that is off to McAllen, Texas. Here comes American Flight 2792 from San Antonio, Texas. A popular 737-800. And here goes an American Eagle Embraer 175. And that's off to Omaha, Nebraska.
Land clear for takeoff on 8 left, American 2720.
What, more planes? Yeah, we got more planes.
Down to 5661.
There goes American Flight 812 coming in from El Paso, Texas, an A321. This is the part where it gets a little exhausting for me. So many planes, so little time. And this is just one side of the airport. We have, let's see, a couple of 737s. The one on the right, I believe, is headed to Guadalajara in Mexico. The one on the left to Chicago O'Hare. And there's an American Eagle plane out there somewhere. Oh, it's already lined up. That one's headed to Waco in Texas. As we watch this plane coming in. That was American Flight 2788, a 737-800 coming in from Colorado Springs in the great state of Colorado. This American Eagle flight to Waco is rolling. Again, a very short trip, about a half hour in the sky. And if you're new to Runway DFW or to DFW Airport, you're probably asking yourself, why are there so many American Airlines planes here? It's the home base of American Airlines, American being the world's biggest airline, so yeah, we see a lot of them. There are, as we also often recount, there are 5 terminals here at DFW, and American Airlines exclusively occupies 3 of them, and also has a presence in the other 2. The plane you're watching now is American Flight 1106, headed off to Chicago O'Hare, and in the foreground you're about to see American Flight 2487 coming in from Kansas City, Missouri. We've got some double barrel action there for you on runways 18 right and left. And the hits just keep on coming. Here is American Flight 1174 on its way to Guadalajara in Mexico. 737-800.
Wait, 18 left, American 1304.
And Morris Reddick is favoring us with some information about American Flight 1304, which you see there.
Switching today.
Oh, he's saying that Allegheny Retro A319 is 3rd in line from Charleston. We're going to see another retro livery today? Oh, here it comes now. Thanks, Morris. So I've lost track of our retro liveries today. This is either the 3rd or the 4th. We've seen yeah, this is the 4th. We've seen PSA, we've seen AirCal, we've seen Reno Air, and now Allegheny. And Allegheny holds a special place in my heart, as I used to fly that quite a bit between the New York area and Indianapolis, where I went to college. I was a big player there. So we're having quite a retro show here on Runway DFW today. I don't know how many planes altogether American has painted in different colors. They've got at least 2 American Airlines retro liveries. Astrojet, which we saw on Friday, and then the next iteration of that with the big red and blue AA on the tail, which that's the one I like the best, really. I wish they'd go back to that. That was back when they weren't painting their planes, and they can't do that anymore because a lot of these planes that they now have have at least partial composite bodies, which don't look like aluminum. What do we have here? This is unusual. Almost looks like they're paving something, but I think that's just these vehicles that can transport those big cargo containers, moving at a leisurely pace. That one's kind of smoking, isn't it? That's probably about top speed for those things too.
INFB Park, please take for all point, left American 2570. Departure, have a good day, American 24.
American flight, is this right? 744 from Oklahoma City. Shouldn't be here yet. No, that was... No? That was coming in from Tulsa. That's American Flight 1695. Here's American Flight 2517 taking off. If I can pick it out of the crowd there. I think I've lost it. There it is. I believe that's going to Calgary in Canada. And yes, Calgary for that one. Here comes American Flight 744 coming in from Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. And that's just a little over a half-hour flight. Still got a parade of jets coming to the starting line here. First of which appears to be American Flight 2767 to Seattle.
American Flight 767.
George Ragsdale checking in. Good morning, Walt and mods. And John Walters saying hello from Manchester in UK. Good afternoon to you, John. Got a bunch of planes congregating for takeoff now, as there's an incoming flight from Roswell, New Mexico. American Eagle.
American 2767.
And this, I believe, is going to be the Seattle-bound flight. And yes, I know if you've been watching the last 20 or 30 minutes, you were saying, where are all the other airlines? There are other airlines here. We see Delta, we see United, we see Alaska and Frontier and Spirit. But between American and American Eagle, they account for probably about 85% of the passenger traffic here. So that is why you see so many planes that sport the American or American Eagle livery at DFW. It's one reason we like to come out in the mornings, because we do get to see what we got. We saw Japan Airlines this morning, and we also generally we see at least a few cargo planes. We saw 2 747s this morning, Korean Air Cargo and CargoLux. This, I can tell you, is American Flight 1810, a 737-800, but I don't have the destination information for it on my screen. Not available, it says. And before that even gets up, just as that lifted off, here comes this American Eagle jet. It's a CRJ 701 ER, I'm going to say. Can't say. I can tell you that that's American Flight 1237 coming in from Phoenix, Arizona. An A321. And you can see over here we've got parallel landings over on the east side. Can't tell you what they both are, but there's 3 runways over there, and 2 of them are often used simultaneously for takeoffs. There's the American Airlines PSA livery, which we saw coming in earlier. This one's going to Montrose. I believe that's Colorado. So yes, that's one of the 4 retro liveries we've seen this morning from American Airlines. Here is a flight coming in from Aguascalientes in Mexico. Keep an eye on this retro livery. Oh, now we can see the nose. We were looking for that before, the smiling face of PSA.
Looking for takeoff 18 left RNAV, B Park American 2029. Last line of Boeing on Boeing 3515. American 1114, other visual 17 left.
How can you not smile when you see the front of a plane that looks like that? PSA, of course, the initials of Pacific Southwest Airlines.
Land 111, Pacific, I'm on board 35.
Which was absorbed into, I want to say, America West before America West and American Airlines merged. This is American Eagle Flight 3515 off to Monterrey in Mexico. It's an Embraer 175. Kells 1136 has a memory of the smiling bird. Used to watch PSA out of Stockton, California. What have we here? We got a Sky West. That Sky West plane's coming in from Santa Fe in New Mexico. Mitsubishi 701ER. And look, everybody, it's a plane that's not American Airlines. Well, we just saw one, Sky West, but there's a United plane which will be making its way to Denver once it gets. Elwin Aruhu. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that. A beautiful Sunday to all. A beautiful Sunday back to you.
I'm on 4172.
This is American Airlines Flight 353. An A321 now winging its way to Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. Another popular tourist destination from this airport. All for some sun and fun. We've got plenty of sun here today. We're up to 87 degrees at 9:08 a.m. Headed for somewhere upwards of 100 degrees here at DFW. Fahrenheit, that is, of course, for our international viewers. This is American Flight 2473. If I read that right, it's an A321 headed to San Diego, California.
2743, yes, sir.
And we have some more emergency vehicles.
43, Waco, good day.
Fire truck, an ambulance, and
Control 4062.
I guess a personnel car. Headed over from their station here on the west side. As we always say when we see these vehicles moving into position, any big airport like this is like a major city, really. There's thousands of employees and, of course, thousands of passengers in transit at any time. So there are the occasional emergencies. Cars can catch on fire, or people can get injured or fall sick. That was American Eagle Flight 5707 from Cedar Rapids, Iowa. And that is American Eagle Flight 4935 off to Lubbock, Texas. We can get another look at this retro livery here. Oh, this is the AirCal that we saw earlier arriving. It was like a retro bonanza today here on Runway DFW. That AirCal branded plane is off to Austin. It's American Flight 1664. It's a 737-800. Here is the United jet. It's a Flight 1182. It's headed to Denver. So yes, we do have planes other than American and American Eagle here. Off to Mexico City goes this American Airlines jet. It's American Flight 389. 737-800 series. Off it goes, and now we switch back to the Austin-bound AirCal livery. American Airlines jet, also a 737-800.
Left on that learn American. Going 20 left on the 40.
Well, did someone say Alaska Airlines? Yes, we have Alaska Airlines as well here. And we're about to see flight 725 on its way to Seattle. (737-990 ER). Mike N 32451 asks, any heavies out this AM? And yes, we've seen a few so far. We saw two big 747 cargos, Korean Air and CargoLux. Seen a number of Dreamliners and 777s. I don't know what we've got on the agenda here. I'm looking at the arrivals and departures. We've got an American Airlines 777, which is headed out to Maui, which is scheduled for the next 10 or 15 minutes or so to take off. Runway DFW has been brought to you by in two segments today. Our first segment led off with the departure of a UPS MD-11 cargo. We went on the air a little bit early for that. I see only 2 UPS planes right now. Doesn't look like either. I don't see any of them scheduled immediately to be taking off. I want to welcome a couple of other new subscribers we haven't mentioned so far. Motaz Alfakir and Maria de Fatima Faria. Both new subscribers to Runway DFW. Thank you for that. And I'd just like to say, if you'd like to fly first class with us here on Runway DFW, you can become a member of our family by subscribing, of course, to our channel, which is free. And you can also send us a tip at streamlabs.com/runwaydfw. That's where we can use your tips to buy a cup of coffee or to help pay for our streaming and equipment expenses. And we thank you for that in advance. It's streamlabs.com/runwaydfw. It'll help us out, and we thank you. Well, Morris is helping out with taking a look at what's up. The next heavy will be Emirates, Boeing 777, due at 9:50 so far on time. And okay, we'll hang out for that. After that, I'm going to have to go because I got to be a grandpa today. Go hang out with 5-year-old Mason. Well, he's almost 6. Joshua Leclerc I welcome you. He says, good morning, happy Sunday. So back to the airplanes here. Looks like all American or American Eagle lining up. Our first one here is an A319, which is headed off to Silao in Mexico. It's American flight 1263, which you see there with the East Tower behind it.
Clear for takeoff, on after Laird, American 1263.
Oh, and here's Raina Taylor. She is our special Olympian equestrian champion. Well, I've put up her note. I can't look at it right now as we watch this plane take off, but I'll read it in just a second. Oh, he says she's flying home from Orlando with 2 silver medals and a bronze medal for her equestrian experience at the Special Olympics USA Games down in Orlando. Congratulations, Raina, and have a safe trip back. That is fantastic.
The Park 20 left, clear pickup, mark 1550. Last lane, runway 37.
Rain has been a big supporter of us here at Runway DFW, and we in turn are grateful for that and
American 1263.
support her very much. Thanks, Raina, for checking in. What you just saw there was a flight to Las Vegas. This
I'll take care of you.
is a flight from Salt Lake City. Flight 1214, American Airlines. 737-800.
Turn 190 up to 10,000, clear for takeoff, 18 left, runway 37.
Morris Reddick informing us that Emirates flight will be flight 221 from Dubai, which we expect in about 20 minutes or so. And Joshua says, this is a great show. You're doing a great job. Thanks, Joshua. We had some issues with our initial stream this morning. We tried streaming at 1080p, which was working out, and then it kind of devolved into a series of still pictures. So shut down the stream, fired it up again as 720p. Seems to be holding pretty steady.
3777.
Here comes an American Airlines flight from Tucson, Arizona.
Left, line up way at American 619.
That's flight 2193. This plane is kind of making an unusual turn. This is the 777, which is going to be headed to Maui in Hawaii. So the one front and center right now is American flight 2798. It's an A321, which is going to be going to San Francisco momentarily. Vince wants to know any plans for the next Runway DFW edition from Austin or another Texas location. We did do a couple days from Austin, I think it was last month. And they were so friendly down there at the airport at Austin Bergstrom International Airport. I know that in the last, I think it was last week, they had Sir Richard Branson there to herald the inaugural service. Well, I guess it had already started, but he was there to kind of pump it up. The Virgin Atlantic service from Boston, which we don't see Virgin Atlantic here in Dallas-Fort Worth. So Sir Richard himself was there for a news event, a press event. For some reason, when I see Richard Branson, I always think of the Bee Gees. Just has that kind of look, right? There on the left is the 777 headed to Maui, and on the right is an A321, and this one's going off to San Francisco. It's American Flight 2798, I think. Or did we just see that? Is my radar playing tricks on me? And what you just heard is the clearance for this 777 to make its way, or to begin to make its way, to the Hawaiian Islands. Aloha, y'all. Well, we got double 777 action here, because there goes Emirates arriving a little early from Dubai. Well, there's your 777s, one on the ground, one up in the sky. That, of course, a considerably longer flight than... It's a long flight to Maui, but Dubai, that's 15 hours, almost 15 and a half hours in the air. And you're looking at a 14-year-old 777-21H LR. So yeah, that arrived a bit early. Out of the corner, well, out of my ears heard the sound of that plane coming in as I was watching the American 777 taking off. I said, I think this may be something we want to look at. And sure enough, there is Emirates. And Morris said, "Glad you got them together. I can make a beer run now." Can you make a beer run on Sunday? I'm not a beer drinker, so I don't know. Can you make a beer run on Sunday morning in Texas? I'm not sure. Well, as the temperature edges up, it's 91 degrees already here before we get to even, it's just after 9:30 a.m. here in North Texas, and yeah, it's going to be up to 100, 101, 102, 103, 104, 105, something like that. I'm sure it's going to feel a lot hotter out here in the sun, and that is why we at Runway DFW are about to shut it down for the day as we watch American Flight 615 coming in from Chicago O'Hare. And there's the Emirates flight headed over to the international terminal. But yes, I have grandfather duties to take care of now, so, and I got a lot of equipment to pack up. So that music means that we're on our way out of here. We will be back at Runway DFW later this week. Probably also early in the morning, Texas time, to be with you for some more action from the world's second busiest airport. My name is Walt Swerko. I hope you've enjoyed your visit to Runway DFW. I hope you can like and subscribe to our channel. And once again, a reminder that if you are so inclined, you can fly first class with us here and drop us a tip or donation at streamlabs.com/runwaydfw. Thanks very much, everybody, and happy contrails to you until we meet again.